Hello and welcome to Plod with me. My name is Colin and this is a site where I'm going to take you around bits of London and hopefully explain some of their history. And today we are going to go around one of the oldest parts of London, namely the City of London. We're going to see part of it, not all of it, but we'll see part of it. And today we're starting off just by St Paul's Tube Station. So if I just swing this around, I'll show you. So St Paul's Tube Station is just over there on the other side of that big octagonal building, and then to the left we have St Paul's Cathedral itself. Let's see if I can bring that round and show you. There you go. Okay, but we're starting off across the road. We'll start off at the corner of Cheapside. Now Cheapside, these days, as you can see, it's just sort of filled with a lot of the standard shops and cafes and everything else that you would expect to see in a lot of streets. But back, if you'd have been here a few hundred years ago, and hundreds of years before Oxford Street was even invented, when it was still a field, this was the main thoroughfare in London. So if you came looking for stuff, you would have come to Cheapside. But today we're not going there. We'll do a video of that another time. Today we are going to go down this street. So this is Foster Lane, and the first thing we're going to have a quick look at is the church on the corner. This is St Vedast. Now it's a bit closed today. A lot of the churches are on Saturdays up in the City of London, but if you ever get a chance, it is lovely looking inside. It tells you a little bit here about the history. It says St Vedast alias Foster, and that gives you a lot of stuff about various other parishes it's linked with. Now it says this church was founded in the 12th century and destroyed by the Great Fire of London in 1666. It was rebuilt in 1697 by Christopher Wren and then damaged by enemy action in 1940. So that would have been during the Second World War, and restored in 1962. So as it says, rebuilt by Christopher Wren. An awful lot of the churches that were damaged during the Great Fire of London were rebuilt by Christopher Wren. So over time, whenever I'm sort of going around the City of London and pointing out churches, I'm going to say Christopher Wren a lot because he designed an awful lot of them. So, one little, if you're ever up this way and you want somewhere to get away from it all, a bit of quiet space, have a look in here. If it's open, if the door's open, just go in. And you have this quiet little nook, all looked after by the church. A little space for quietness. I have to say, when when I'm up this neck of the woods, and sometimes I will get myself a coffee and just come in, sit here and chill out before doing whatever it is I'm going to do. So just a little place to be aware of in case you're ever up here. You'll find it's listed on a number of websites as part of those hidden places in London to get away from it all. And it is beautiful, well looked after. And sometimes you get a few of the local birds because they hang out bird feeders sometimes during the year. You get some of the local birds coming in and feeding. Not seeing anything today, but just somewhere to be aware of. But now, let's get on and wander up Foster Lane. Now, I may have to refer to my notes periodically, because my memory only goes so far, but we'll see how it goes, see how I do. Alright, so, okay, hold on, I'm just going to backtrack a sec. You can see off this lane, there's several little alleys like this, and this is sort of a throwback to medieval times, where you would have had these little dark alleys. And although they're more modern now, these, as part of the original sort of street plan. So as we come down here, you can see it starts to widen out, and we have got this rather grand looking building on the right hand side. So let's have a look at that. So this is Goldsmiths Hall. And if I just pan up, you can see it's very grand indeed. And there's a bit of Latin there underneath the two unicorns. It says Justitia Virtutum Regina, which apparently means justice is the queen of virtues, which I had to look up because I don't speak Latin. But as you can see, it is a very grand building. Now, the reason I wanted to point that out is because Goldsmiths Hall, many of you will have a connection with. So let's go back to the reason why it's there in the first place. So, the City of London has, at the present, the number has varied over the years, but at present it's got 111 what's called livery companies. So, just crossing the road here. So these are companies that control various trades for hundreds of years. They have controlled numerous things. Now, in this case, with the Goldsmiths Company, there's been a building on this site since 1337, or 1339, sorry. Edward I gave the goldsmiths a license or a charter to sort of regulate the goldsmith trade back in 1327. And if you're wondering who Edward I was, if you've ever seen Braveheart, he was the nasty king played by Patrick McGowan. But basically, regulating the various trades was good business, not just for the city and helping in its growth, but also for the king, because then he could raise money to run his country and, you know, fight wars and all the rest of it. So you had livery companies that over the years, more and more of them were added, that would regulate the various trades. So the goldsmiths one would verify the quality of any gold brought down here. You could, you know, pay a small charge and get your gold checked and make sure it was good quality. They would regulate the training of goldsmiths, and in general, just make sure that there was nothing dodgy going on with anybody that was buying or selling gold. And you know, apprenticeships for the craft of goldsmithing. So the reason why I say that this may have a small connection with yourself, if any of you have ever bought a piece of gold for a partner or for yourself, it will have what's called a hallmark on it. And the hallmark, there's books you can get to tell you what the different symbols mean, but over the years different symbols represent the quality of the gold and when it was marked and all the rest of it. And that idea of hallmarking originates here, because originally people would have brought their gold to this place as hallmarked, and so that tradition carried on and spread around the world. And they still do hallmarking of a sort, like they've got a big place I believe out by Heathrow now, but it's like computerized branding of gold and verification, but they still do some of the old traditional crafts and training of apprenticeships and whatnot here nowadays. Other livery companies, and like I say, there's currently 111 of them. Some of them are still maintaining the quality and the standards of their various crafts. Some of them are now more devoted to doing charity work, and they will, you know, support various charities depending on You know, if they think that it's in alignment with what they believe in. So, first place of interest, Goldsmiths Hall. Now this is welcome to the worshipful company of Goldsmiths Garden. So this is a little garden that they've got across the way, and you can see here it's got a big leopard's head on the entrance. And that's because the leopard was the sign, Edward I. That was one of his logos, as it were. And on whenever the Goldsmiths is doing an exhibition or something, they've got the big flags outside, and the leopard is one of the symbols that's on there, sort of representing them. So you can see there that the churchyard of St. John Zachary garden belongs to the worshipful company of Goldsmiths, refurbished in 1995 by the worshipful company of gardeners, assisted by the worshipful companies of blacksmiths, lightmongers and constructors. So there you go, there's 4 other livery companies mentioned just in relation to this garden. So obviously the livery companies all work together, you know, and have close links. There might be some you know, competition. They are ranked in order, and the Goldsmiths is in, like, from 1 to 111 in order of precedence, importance, I don't know, but it's number 5, I believe. So here we go. I'm just going to nip back down. So that was false earlier, and I'm just continuing up. It's now, we're on a thing called Noble Street. So just in case any of you want to follow along, be it in a map or if you're ever up this way and you want to use this as a guide. And the next thing we're going to point out is the Roman wall. So basically, the Romans were in Britain from approximately the year 47 to about the year 410. The year 200, they built a wall. They ringed the city, this original part of London called the city, and they ringed it with a large wall to basically protect it, defensive measure. And that was after some of the locals, well, East Anglian locals, under the leadership of a queen called Boudica, came down and trashed the place. Killed lots of Romans and lots of people who had supported the Romans whenever she thought they should have been supporting their own people. And they just came down, totally trashed it. A lot of the army was away fighting in Wales, putting down a rebellion there at the time. And so when the Romans came back, they beat Boudica in a big battle, and then they set about making a defensive wall. So you can still see part of it here, which I'll show you. Okay, so let's just take a wander over.
The place through it.
Now this, but don't think that all of this is Roman, because obviously you can see the brickwork, and it's more like Victorian, because this would have been like warehouses. So Victorian, you're talking about the 1800s for the most part, until the beginning of the 20th century. But you can, I don't know if you can see, but down at the bottom, just to the left of those little, what are they? Look like beehive things, don't they? But just to the left of that, you can see like ragstone, or sort of rough stone, just sort of poking through some of the plants. And that would have been some of the Roman foundations. If it hasn't been overgrown, you can see it a bit better further up, so I'll nip up there. So here we go. Now you can see some of the basic foundation ragstone there, and then you can actually see in the brickwork there, you can see some of the holes. That would have shown you sometimes where the floors were. Although this gap between them is a bit small, but in a lot of these old walls, sometimes you can see the actual holes where the wooden rafters would have went in. But I imagine this must have been more sort of support things if this was being used as warehouses. Let's continue on up.
Sorry.
Okay.
It says cut through the park, head past the sea.
Now, if we have a quick look here, depend on the size of your device, you might be able to see this, but just near the bottom there, you can see bits of orangey red poking through. And that's very typical of Roman building of their walls, because what they would do, they would put so many of the stones in, like almost like our version of bricks, and then they would do a layer of like tiles, like roof tiles almost. They would lay them sideways and then put more bricks on top, and that was to increase the strength. So you can actually see that down there. It gives you a little idea, and then obviously as we move around to the left, you're looking at the more Victorian side of stuff with the typical red brickwork. But you can see on that bit there, you can see where they've actually left some of the Roman wall, the ragstone, and just built in between it, because obviously it was still pretty strong. So that's not unusual as well. Sometimes they didn't bother knocking stuff down, they just added to it. Now, we are going to nip across the road here. And you can see here, hopefully, I'm going to try and do a close-up. Can you see that? It says William Shakespeare had lodgings near here in 1604 at the house of Christopher and Mary Mountjoy. So he had lodgings at a place called Silver Street, which was just over there where, where all the buildings going on at the minute. Hold on, let's nip up here and see if I can get a better view. So over there, that building through the trees, until last year, that was the Museum of London. In fact, early this year, this is 2024, September, that was the Museum of London, which is now moving and will reopen somewhere else in a couple of years. But they reckon that the house that Shakespeare stayed in was pretty much underneath that, where the museum was. He lodged there, as it said, with a family called the Mountjoys. And there's actually a book about it called The Lodger, which gathers evidence of his time here. And I do like to think, maybe I'm old, but it does make me chuckle slightly to think of William Shakespeare staying there at Lodging House, Cheapside, the main marketplace is down the street, and he'd have been nipping out and saying, "I'm just nipping down the road for some milk. Anybody need anything?" So, this is where that would have happened. Now, the reason why this part, you can see all the modern buildings in between the bushes and where all the construction was going on at the minute. The reason why it's so modern compared to the little street that we have just walked up is because back in 1940, this area was all redesigned by a German company, and they were called the Luftwaffe. And there was a part of World War II, there was a period called the Blitz. Now, it didn't just affect London. Numerous other cities, including Belfast, the centre of the universe, were affected by German bombing during this time. But London did get absolutely pummeled between September 1940 and May 1941. London just got pummeled, regular bombs, incendiary bombs, you name it. It just got the hell blown out of it, and large parts of London were just demolished, and then after the war, when they did the clean-up, they basically had to figure out how they were going to redevelop. And this, what's normally a dual carriageway, and all this more modern sort of layout is all as a result of that. But that's one of the almost the beauties of London. You've got old stuff, hundreds of years old, sitting alongside stuff that happened, in my dad's lifetime. And it all sort of sits side by side, and it's got layers of stories as a result of that. So where I'm standing is in the churchyard. There was a church here called St. Olaf's, and in the same way that there are 111 livery companies in London, the city of London, there was well over 100 churches of various sorts, monasteries, churches, you name it, because religion, much like business, was everywhere. Now it's hard to read this little sign. St. Olaf's, Silver Street. And the road widens by the Commissioners of Sewers at the request of the some year. That's only partially readable, but it was obviously installed there quite a while ago. So yeah, the City of London, for those of you who don't know, London is a city, but it has lots of areas within it. So Soho, you've got up the West End, Mayfair, St James, Chelsea, you name it, lots of areas. And the city was the original London. It was where all the business and everything, and that's why today, even now, whenever the news experts talk about the city, they're talking about the financial aspect of London, because this is where it all started. So the city, in London terms, is an area of London. Okay, and within the city, the two big things that would have dominated people's lives, obviously, was trying to get by and trade and all that. But the other thing was religion, and there were churches everywhere. And at some point, we'll try and have a look for the ones that are still there and the ones that have gone. Now today, they've closed the footpath, which is a bit of a bummer. So now, let me see if I can find an alternative way round. I wasn't expecting this, but this is the joy of coming to London. Right, I'm going to see if I can backtrack a bit and make my way round. I know I can get round to where I want to, like going round in a big loop, but I'm going to see if I can do it a bit quicker. We've got a blue plaque just under that bush there. Site of the Scriveners' Hall, 1628 to 1703. Now, Scriveners would have been another livery company. And I remember looking up what they were, but for the life of me at the minute, I can't remember. So I'll have to add that in. Now, can we get round this way? And here's another livery company, the Pewters. So I suppose they would have made tankards and plates and the like. I certainly have had a pewter tankard in my time. And the question is, can I get round to where I want to from here? And the answer would appear to be no. That's alright. Okay, so we're taking a slight diversion from where we expect it to be. But that's okay. So as I was saying, you can see all this is all modern. You know, skyscrapery. Not huge, not in terms of height, but modern. And then you come to a modern building like this, and suddenly you come up against, you see something like this. This is what I mean about London. The old meets the new. Haberdashers' Company, 1831. So the building's obviously not from 1831, but obviously the haberdashers were there then. It might still be, just in a newer building. Much like the Goldsmiths, like I was saying, that's their building over there on the right. They've been there since 1337, but this is the third building, and the last one was built, I think it was 1835, that building that we're looking at now, 1835. And there we have next to it, if you look dead ahead, 2 unicorns. The Wax Chandler's Hall. So obviously they would have made, I suppose, candles amongst other things, which in medieval times would have been a huge trade. And between the unicorns it says, truth is the light. And obviously religious connotations, but also a bit of a pun on the fact that they made candles. Now, I was hoping to come to the Wood Street from the other end initially, but that's okay. So what was I saying about the old meets the new? Notice that nice little church tower right in between, or right in front of all those modern office buildings. And somebody does live in there, maybe several people. Obviously, unless they have a lift, you wouldn't have to go down the gym too often if you're living in there. So this was part of St Albans Church, which there's been a church on this site from, I believe it was in the 900s until about 1635, and then it sort of fell into disrepute. And then someone in the 1800s, I think his name was Scott, decided to refurbish the church. So that, like, you got to remember, there was a whole church here. So refurbished it in the 1800s, obviously part of Victorian rebuilding. And then it got damaged during the Blitz. And apparently in the 1950s, the talk was about destroying the whole thing. But they basically destroyed the rest of it and left this, and this is now listed, which basically means it's protected. So, as I say, a quaint place to live. And I don't think you get burgled too often, because that building up to the right of it is the headquarters of the City of London Police. Not to be confused with the Metropolitan Police. This is the police force just for the City of London. It has its own sort of police force, own mayor, to a certain extent, its own rules for how business and whatnot is done. In a lot of ways, it is a law unto itself, but it obviously works with Greater London. So I had hoped to come back through this way after showing you a couple of things up this way. So we'll go up and then we'll loop back around. And obviously, with the road being blocked off, there's not a hell of a lot of traffic. Usually this road, which we're coming up to, called London Wall, because it's named after the Roman wall, usually it'd be relatively busy. But I think at the minute I could stand here and do some dancing without fear of getting run over. But I think we'll not give it a go. Alright, so obviously there's a lot of construction going on. Buildings as well as the road behind me. But this is London Wall, which, as I say, named after the original Roman wall. Great big junction. Okay, so we're going to continue up Wood Street. And continuing with the Roman theme, this is Roman House. Now those buildings behind it there, that's the Barbican estate, which we'll talk about another day. But I just thought I'd show you this little plaque. As it says, this is part of the London Wall walk. So you can walk the entire length of the London Wall from the Tower of London all the way around up where we were, round the Blackfriars. And one of these days I'm going to do that. I'll film it. Okay, so that says this is the site of Cripplegate, which is demolished. So I'm going to nip down this way. Like, just looking over there's another blue plaque just on the right of that gateway. On this and nearby site stood Currier's Hall between 1583 and 1940. So obviously another one lost in the Blitz, but I have no idea what Curriers did. So I need to look up that one up too. And I wanted to show you this one. That's a little bit of London. So first up, let's have a quick nosy here. There we go. Nice little stone park. Let me see if I can get it without the railings. There we go. So somewhere you can chill out during the week, obviously locked up at the weekends. What I can see, but somewhere if you work nearby, you can come down, have your lunch on a nice day. Nice and peaceful and quiet. But if we continue around here, you can see we've got more, well, not just Roman wall, but a couple of other eras as well. So over time, so like the Romans built the wall, then they left around about 410, early 400s, and the walls would, sort of, as London sort of deteriorated for 400 or 500 years. Still people lived here, but it wasn't the city that it was until it started regaining some prominence again. The walls weren't maintained, and everything started to go down. But then, over time, they would build them up again as the city started to grow again. when London, the sort of England, Alfred the Great, created sort of the first sort of unified English monarchy, as it were, or British, English, yeah. And then the walls would get rebuilt over time. So, like at one point we had the Civil War, so that was 1640s, and at different parts of London the walls would have been built up again to sort of protect, depending on what side you were fighting on, to protect against that. But this wall, you've got 3 levels. You've got the Romans, you've got the Civil War in the 1640s, and you can see up there, you can see they actually built designs into it. Like, it wasn't just sort of a bland brick wall. You can actually see you got that sort of diamond design with the black bricks. And this wall was also used, apparently, at the time from the War of the Roses. So the War of the Roses was about 1455 to 1487. So Romans, War of the Roses, and then the Civil War. And you got 3 different distinct eras in the brickwork here that they've found. So again, layers of London. And of course, the Wars of the Roses that gave us one of my favourite Shakespeare plays, Richard III. Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by the son of York. And that's why I work in an office. And there we have the Salters. So this is the Salters Hall. I think they are number 9, if I remember right, the livery company. And the hall inside, although it's a modern building, the hall inside has been designed in such a way that it's obviously quite something, because it's now been listed and protected. So, here we go. So let me just see. So what we were just looking at, this is a fragment of the Roman and medieval wall of London that's been repaired many times since it was first built. At the base is the core of an even older wall of 2nd century Roman fort, around which the city wall was built. Above are repairs of the Middle Ages, so that will be sort of at the top of the remains of a brick rebuilding 1477. At this level was a parapet for defending the city, looking out over the fields to the north. And over that was a wide ditch, what is now Salter's Garden. So that's Salter's Garden down there. And the Salters were very important. Salt was a huge commodity, especially in the Middle Ages, but still today. Right. So we're going to have a quick look here. It's St. Alphage. If you're interested, the cafe is called Barbie Greens. I'm sure it was very popular when the movie came out. So here we go. London Wall Place. So this is the tower of what was once part of a hospital, which was attached to, if I remember right, St. Alphage Church. But, a lot of the medieval monasteries would end up having the early days of what you would call hospitals attached to them, because the monks that would see that as part of their duty as tending to the sick. And in a number of places around London where hospitals even are now, they were originally based, where the hospitals are built now is where they were in medieval times, because they were attached to the monasteries. This is one of them. And as you can see, they obviously built well in those days. There's a little, and parts of it may have disappeared. They're still huge chunks. That's quite an impressive archway. So again, we're looking at old meets new. Which one do you think is going to last longer? I know which I put my money on. Alright. So here we go. So here we are looking at the tower of the Church of the Medieval Hospital of Elsing Spittal. So Spittal is just an abbreviation for hospital, really. So someone called William Elsing he was a merchant and he founded the hospital. To your right is the entrance to the church leading into the choir. To your left, it says at the end there, St. Alphage's parishioners bought the church to replace their own, which was derelict. To the north you can see the site of this church, close to the remains of the city wall. There you go. And then it gives you a whole, wrong way, gives you a whole breakdown across the years of the different changes that were made to it. Okay. So I was planning to come here and then go down Wood Street where we saw St. Albans. So we'll have to backtrack down. Unless I wonder if we can cut through there. Maybe that would be a way of doing it. Okay, I'm going to go somewhere that I actually don't know where I'm going, just to see if it leads. My nose tells me it might take us where we want to get to. So this one here, this is another livery company. Don't know if you can see it too well, but it's the Brewers Hall. So obviously in times gone by that would have been one of my favourites. Brewers Hall Garden. And just to be clear, it's not that I don't still like a drink, it's just I don't get the chance. Because when I come up to London, on top of a train journey, I've got about a 19-mile drive, so I tend not to drink. So, okay, let's nip round this way. As I say, I've never come round this way before, but I'm feeling moderately confident. And I have to say, this is one of the things I like. Oh, tiny fountains. This is one of the things I like about coming up the city at the weekend, because as a general rule, it is usually quite empty. It's more busy now than it used to be when I first moved to London, but it is usually quite quiet. So if you want to go somewhere chilled and have a wander about, this is a good part of time to do it in. Okay, so have a quick look at that. This is the Chartered Insurance Institute. Fair enough. Right, I know where I am now, but I also know where I want to get to, and I'm thinking that lorry's right in the bloody way. Right, so hold on. So I had wanted to show you something over there, but we'll also have to do that another day, because it's all blocked off today. So we'll do that another time. Okay. So this is a slightly amended version of the tour, or the walk, I was planning on doing today, thanks to construction work. So So this is the back of the Guildhall. And you can see, you know, lots of construction going on. Usually a sign of a prosperous city. They are forever knocking down old stuff and building new ones that won't last a tenth of the time, in my opinion. So our battery gave out. We have been redirected by numerous things and, you know, to do with construction, but let's see what we can find now. So this is the Guildhall. Now they reckon guild comes from like a Dutch word guild, it's sort of taxes, so this is where people would have come to pay their taxes. But basically a lot of the official business of the City of London would have been done here throughout medieval times. And although parts of this were damaged during the war, some of the original bits still remain, you know, from hundreds of years ago. The date I'll have to look up, it's escaped me just at the minute. But it's a lovely building, really nice inside too. If you're ever in London, they do a thing called Open House London Weekend in September. And if you ever come up, sometimes this takes as part of it. So that's when I got to see in round inside it. But the other thing that's interesting here, and I'm hoping you can see it. If you're using a small device, you might not, but if you're seeing this on like a computer or a laptop, you should be able to. If you can see on the ground there, about 30 feet in front of me, there is a black line. I'll try and get a bit closer, let's see. There's a black line built into the paving. It goes in a sort of elliptical shape. We go under the Guildhall and reappears over in that corner over there. And that is because it represents what was once London's Roman Colosseum, the equivalent. So they were digging here, they were building this building here, the Guildhall Art Gallery, which if you're ever here, I recommend a visit to. It's got some lovely pictures. Not to mention probably some of the best toilets in London, you know. So it's got some great stuff. And down in the basement, you can still see part of the original Colosseum. Some of it's it's very basic, but it's still partly there, and they've got sort of boards and whatnot describing what it is you're looking at. But what happened was, they knew that there was a Colosseum somewhere in London. I think some of them suspected it was up this way, but they weren't certain where. So they started work on this building in 1987, and then next thing they found the foundations of the Colosseum, and they then had to halt building this building until they had dug everything up and established where it was and protected what they could, and then they carried on building that. But from what they found, they were able to work out the size of it, and that's what's now depicted using this black line around the plaza here. But like I say, that gallery, well worth it. And if you check the website beforehand on your visit up, they do free tours. So periodically throughout the day there's free tours, and they'll explain some of the history of some of the paintings. So yeah, I've done that. It's interesting. I do like this gateway. It's got the gargoyles. What's it say? The Free Library and Museum of the Corporation of the City of London. That's what it says around the archway there. I'll just put that up slightly so you can see. That's what it reads around it. But yeah, do like this. Nice old touch. Now, we are going to go down here, assuming they haven't blocked this off. So this is Mason's Avenue. And the reason for coming down here, apart from getting to the next part, is because of this man on this pub sign. Dr. Butler, and this pub is called the Old Dr. Butler's Head. Now, Dr. Butler actually he wasn't a doctor. He had no medical training. He was based up at Cambridge. He was obviously at best delusional, but the fact that he had no medical training didn't actually stop him from declaring himself to be the greatest doctor in England. And he rose to prominence because James I, the King of England at the time, and Scotland, and was having an absolutely terrible time with constipation. And obviously, you know, medieval times, in Stuart times as this was, conditions like that and stuff that we can maybe get easily over-the-counter stuff for now could turn into very serious things, you know, life-threatening. So the king was having real trouble. All his medics, nobody could seem to shift it. But then Dr. Butler somehow got recommended to him, and he concocted a concoction which had all sorts of weird stuff in it, but a lot of alcohol. I think there might have been an element of gunpowder and stuff as well, but it was just as weird and delusional as you could get. But it worked, and apparently the resulting explosion from the king could be heard quite some distance away. As a result of this, the king thought he was a genius, and then basically started using him as one of his main physicians. And the good doctor, started franchising out his concoction, and pubs could sell it, bars could sell it, provided they put his sign outside. So I'm not suggesting that this one has been selling it ever since the 1600s, but that was the arrangement. He would get a cut of whatever it was sold, but also he would get the free publicity of his head being outside and word spreading of his fame and ability as a medical person. Now I'm going to have to stand under the shade here because it's starting to rain, which I wasn't counting on, because according to BBC weather it wasn't going to rain until later in the day. But let's see how we go, because obviously my equipment isn't waterproof. To be fair, I'm not that waterproof myself, but my equipment definitely isn't. Now, is this a passing thing, or is it going to last? Let's see. Alright, I know there's another passage nearby, not far from where we're standing now, so let's go to the next bit, and I'll nip round. Pubs are, restaurant, whatever it is called the Tokenhouse, and I will explain why in a moment. Because what we are coming up to is a place called Tokenhouse Yard. So here we have one of those little back alleys with very grand facades either side. At the end, the building facing is opposite. At the end there, that's the back part of the Bank of England. this little lane, as I say, is called Tokenhouse Yard. Okay, so the reason why this is called Tokenhouse Yard is because between 1625 and 49, this was where you would come to get your tokens. Now, why would you need a token? It was because there wasn't much in the way of small denominations of currency. Imagine going to your local coffee shop and they say that'll be £4, $5, whatever. But the only unit of currency you've got is like a $20 or £25 note. But there's no change. So obviously that's not very feasible. So they developed a system that was recognised by lots of traders within the city, whereby you could use tokens which were a smaller denomination, and then if you built up a certain amount of them you could exchange them for real money, but within the local shops and cafes and restaurants, whatever it was, they had, you know, bars and whatnot, because they wouldn't have had cafes, but within the local establishments they were recognised. Now, Queen Elizabeth was dead set against this, outlawed it, and I think it was basically done, you know, with a nod and a wink under the counter, as it were, for a long time. And then by the time of Charles I, he authorised it, as I say, until 1649. That's when he was executed. And then, you know, they had started introducing smaller currency to make things more feasible. But originally in the city, this is where you would have come to get your tokens, hence Tokenhouse Yard. So the token office was based here, obviously not here anymore, but this is where it was. And this rather grand building used to be a bank, but is now apparently offices. It's lovely though. And we are going to take a nip up through here. Number 1 Telegraph Street. This one's called Whalebone Court. I must find out why. It's an unusual name. Okay, so we are going to take a right. And we're really entering like the heart of the city, you know, around the financial district and all the rest of it. That's why there's not much going on around here at the weekend. And as I was saying at the start, used to be you could have come up to the City of London at the weekend. Like I'm talking, when I moved over here in 1990, I remember saying to my mates who were locals in London, and saying to them, well, you know, whenever we're going out for drinks and whatnot, I would have said, why don't we go up to the City of London? And they would have said, what for? It's dead, nothing open. And one time I came up and they were right, nothing was open. It was an absolute wasteland because there isn't that many people live in the city itself. It's almost like a tidal effect. Although there's vast amounts of people work here during the week, they all come, you know, in the mornings, do their work, place is hiving, it's busy, and then in the evenings they all go away again. So it's like the tides of the sea. And although there is a small population within the city, it is small, and hence you used to come up, you know, whenever I came up the weekends at that time to test it out, all the pubs were shut, there was next to nothing. Certainly don't remember any tourists. Whereas now, in different parts of it, certainly down by St Paul's where we started, I noticed that there is that buzz of people about the place, not just at St Paul's but up Cheapside, you know, various other parts around the City of London, which was nice. You know, certainly changed from when I came over. Now, just going to my little gizmo here, it keeps drifting, so sorry about that. Now, this is Draper's Gardens. So the Drapers society, which originated from the making and selling of wool and cloth. This is their gardens because they own part of the buildings on the other side there, and have done since I think about 1543. And they are one of the major players in the livery companies. I think they are number 3 in precedence. Now, sometimes when you come down, you can walk through here. Because we're going to want to get to the other side of these gates, just up to the next passageway. And sometimes when I've been down, this is open, but today it's locked, which is fine. There's another way around. So, actually, I think that the gate at the other end is open. So either that's to let people in who live here, or maybe if I tried my luck, this gate would open as well. But that's okay. I'll take you up this way, show you something. And actually, here's one of the things I wanted to show you, because there's several of these along the walls here. If you look, it says Throgmorton Avenue, but above that you'll see a sign, and it looks like a set square, and what the hell are those things are called? God, I used to use those at school, and for the life of me now I can't think of it. So a square and compass, isn't it? So the pin things, you just stick it in and you could draw circles and that. I'm sure it was a square and compass. But basically the reason that symbol is on these buildings is because it shows that they belong to the land, if not the buildings themselves, but probably those, belong to the Carpenter's livery company. And in different parts of London, some of the livery companies, because they've been around for hundreds of years, they have invested in land, and they show their ownership by putting their logo on the buildings that are built on the land that they own. So sometimes they will own the building as well, but they'll definitely be leasing the land to the people who have the buildings on it, if not. And even though some of them no longer are operational in terms of their original intent, they might just do charity work, this is how they make their money. They were here first, and all these new guys on the block here are building their skyscrapers. They're building them on the land that these guys own. So here we go, this stone commemorating the rebuilding of Carpenter's Hall after its destruction by enemy action, 10th of May 41. That was right at the end of the Blitz, May 41. So this is the Carpenter's Hall, and as I say, those logos being on the buildings down there, and I'll show that it belongs to the Carpenters. And it's around different parts of London you'll see different logos, not everywhere, but just every now and again you'll be walking past and spot something. So up around by Covent Garden, there's a number of buildings where there is a what we would call well-proportioned ladies sticking out of the wall, and that's because it belongs to the Mercer's company. So if you're ever up around by Covent Garden, some of the side streets nearby, and you notice that figure, that's why. So I'll show you that on another video. Okay. So we're just going to snip around to the right here and get ourselves to the other side of those railings that I was pointing out that you normally walk through. this is Austin Friars Passage. And this is one of the things I like about coming up around the city. I have to say, the city is probably one of the areas of London I come to the most. It's because it's filled with these little hidden away passages, many of which have a history behind them. And I like taking a mooch around and just seeing what's here. So this company here, Pater and Company Stock and Share Brokers, the old sign, I believe they finished finished trading in 1905, but their sign's still here. Now, this is the Dutch church. Now, this building dates from 1950, because again, the original was destroyed during the Blitz. But the thing that makes it unusual is that its services and everything about it is all done in Dutch. The original church that was here was granted to basically Protestant refugees by the son of Henry VIII, called Edward VI, and that was in 1550. So all around here used to be an Augustinian friary. And that's why the shortened name is Austin Friars. So, and then come the 1530s, around about 1538, finished, you had a thing called you had the dissolution. You had the dissolution followed and the Reformation sort of hand in hand. And that was where, hold on, why does it keep doing this? So that was where Henry VIII, with this wait. Okay, it's 4 o'clock. So that was where Henry VIII and his right hand man Thomas Cromwell basically just dissolved all a lot of the churches, a hell of a lot, the churches, monasteries, all the rest of it, because they were then set about reforming England from being a Catholic country to a Protestant one. So that's why it's called the dissolution, and the Reformation was the change from one religion to the other. And this was one of the places, the Augustinian Friary is one of the places that got removed as part of that. Might have been handy for Thomas Cromwell because he lived here in Austin Friars. He was renting the place from them. So I'm sure his housing was a lot cheaper once he had dissolved the friary. But the church that was left afterwards, after Cromwell was executed in 1540, apparently it was left lying for several years. As was Thomas Cromwell's house. He was set about building himself a palace here in Austin Friars on the right hand side, and his place was lay dormant for 3 years, and then the Drapers Company basically took it over, and they've had a site here. The building might not be the same building, but they've been on this site ever since. Right up at the end there, we'll be walking past it, it says Drapers Hall, and they probably own the whole bit down the side here. I'll be very surprised if they didn't. But so the Drapers took over the land to the right there. The church that was on site, you have to remember, it wouldn't have been just a church, there would have been a whole set of monastic buildings, but the main church in 1550, Edward VI gifted it to, it was called the Strangers' Church because it was basically for Protestant refugees from Europe. So because England had become Protestant and a lot of Europe was still mainly Catholic, a lot of Dutch people who were converting over to the Protestant faith and didn't feel safe anymore, they came over. And at a time when London had about 100,000 people of its population, they formed 5,000 of it. So it was quite a proportion. And this is now this church is the oldest Dutch-speaking Protestant church in the world. Maybe not physically, but the site, what it represents. And I believe in the Netherlands, this is known as like the mother of, the Protestant churches. So obviously it would probably be on their tourist trail whenever they come over. Oh, so look at that, the little gate that I was talking about. we were down at the other end there and the gate was closed, and I said, you might be able to open it. Well, lo and behold, somebody has. So we could have walked through, but then you would have missed out on the Carpenter's Hall. So I like that building. It's quite funky with the little lights and everything. Okay, so we're near the end now. We're going to take a wander at Boston Friars. And as I said, Draper's Hall is here. Now the thing you got to appreciate is, although this might not look like much on the outside, I would imagine it's very flash on the inside. Some of these buildings are very, they go far back, and some of them are decorated absolutely lavishly. So I'm sure it's very impressive inside. Probably some pictures online if you want to have a look. And here we have this nice statue, and apparently this represents, I think, the corner of the original sort of part of the monastery, as this sort of is representative of where it reached out to. Now, one other little feature, the sort of thing I will mention, if any of you are Killing Eve fans, I remember watching the last series, and there was a bit where she was supposedly in Paris visiting another assassin. She called in, and the assassin's house was flat, and her kid was there, and it was night time, but I would swear it was here, it was filmed, because I remember seeing that and thinking, hold on, I know where that is. I didn't know it was saying Paris. I'm sure it was along here at the film. And to be honest, there's lots of parts of London where different bits of film and movies, TV series and whatnot take place. So as and when they come up, I'll point them out. And that was when my battery went. We were literally about 100 paces away from the end of the alley when I was going to finish the video anyway, when the second battery went. So that was the end of the tour, I'm afraid. But tell me, how was it for you? I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'm hoping to do these every week, probably on a Sunday morning. So if you want to carry on watching more, please feel free to hit the subscribe button wherever I've put it. Otherwise, hopefully you'll join me from time to time. And like I say, I hope you enjoy these. But let me know if you have any questions, or if there's anywhere else in London you'd like me to walk around. Okay, so that's it for now, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.